They say your life can change in a single moment. For me, that moment came at 2:07 a.m. on a Tuesday, in a place I thought I knew better than my own apartment. Centennial Park had been my sanctuary since I moved to the city. 15 acres of carefully maintained green space that made the concrete and steel feel miles away. I was a creature of habit, a night owl who found solace in the empty pathways and moonlit ponds. My evening walks were my therapy, the time when I could process the day's stresses and feel truly alone in the best possible way. That particular night had been tougher than most. My design agency was facing layoffs, and as a junior art director, I knew my position was precarious. The tension had followed me home, a knot of anxiety between my shoulder blades that even a hot shower couldn't loosen. So I did what I always did when sleep wouldn't come. I pulled on my worn leather jacket, slipped my noise-canceling headphones over my ears, and headed for the park. The air was crisp with the first real chill of autumn, carrying the scent of decaying leaves and distant wood smoke. My footsteps echoed faintly on the paved path, the only sound in the profound stillness. The park's antique street lamps cast pools of buttery light at regular intervals, creating islands of visibility in the vast darkness between them. I remember feeling grateful for the silence, for the emptiness. It felt like the entire city belonged to me alone. The first hint that something was wrong came near the Victorian-era bandstand. I'd always loved this structure, with its intricate ironwork and memories of summer concerts, but tonight it looked different, skeletal and foreboding in the moonlight. That's when I saw him. Under the flickering lamp closest to the bandstand, a tall, thin figure stood motionless. My initial thought was that the Parks Department had installed some new sculpture, something abstract and modernist. But as I drew closer, maybe 75 yards away now, I realized with a jolt that it was a man. He was dressed in formal wear, a black suit that hung loosely on his gaunt frame, as if tailored for someone with more substance. His posture was ramrod straight, arms pressed stiffly against his sides, palms flat against his thighs. There was something unnatural about his stillness, like a mannequin posed by an unskilled hand. And he was facing directly toward me. I slowed my pace, my hand instinctively going to my pocket to pause the non-existent music. My heart began a slow, heavy rhythm in my chest. Just a weirdo, I told myself. Probably drunk or high. Just keep walking. Don't make eye contact. I decided to cross to the far side of the path, putting maximum distance between us. As I did, his head tilted. Just a slight, mechanical movement, like a bird spotting movement in the grass. That's when I saw his face clearly for the first time. He was smiling. Not a normal smile, not the slight curve of lips you might offer a stranger. This was a grotesque, stretched rictus that pulled his skin taut against his cheekbones, revealing too much gum and teeth that seemed impossibly white in the dim light. His eyes were wide open, unblinking, reflecting the jaundiced glow of the street lamp with an almost metallic sheen. The smile never reached those eyes, which remained empty, depthless pools. A cold dread, entirely different from the work anxiety I'd been carrying, began to spread through my veins. This wasn't right. This wasn't human. Every primal instinct I possessed was screaming at me to run, but my feet felt weighted, as if I were moving through thick mud. I forced myself to look away, to focus on the park's western exit gate, which suddenly seemed an impossible distance away. I counted my steps, trying to regulate my breathing. 20, 21, 22. The back of my neck prickled with the certainty that he was watching me. After 50 steps, I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to know. I risked a glance over my shoulder, my body tensed for flight. The space under the flickering lamp was empty. Relief washed over me so powerfully my knees nearly buckled. A hallucination, a trick of the light and my overtired, stressed-out brain. I let out a shaky, giddy laugh that sounded alien in the quiet night. Of course, I'd been working too hard, not sleeping enough. I turned back toward the exit, my step lighter, ready to put this bizarre moment behind me. And froze. He was standing directly under the next street lamp along the path, no more than 30 feet ahead of me. The same unnatural posture, the same fixed, horrific smile. He hadn't run. The distance was too great to cover so quickly and silently. He had simply relocated. My mind scrabbled for purchase for any rational explanation and found none. The panic returned, colder and sharper than before. I spun around, my decision made. I was going back the way I came, out the eastern entrance. But as I turned, my blood ran cold. There he was again, back under the first flickering lamp near the bandstand. It was the same man, the same suit, the same smile. I looked frantically from one to the other. Two of them. They had me perfectly bracketed on the path. A low, involuntary whimper escaped my throat. My mind shattered. Reason evaporated, replaced by pure, undiluted terror. I did the only thing I could think of. I broke into a desperate sprint, veering off the path and onto the dark, open lawn. The neatly trimmed grass, usually so welcoming, now felt like a vast, exposed plain. I didn't look back. I just ran, my lungs burning, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I could hear something behind me, a sound that wasn't footsteps. It was a soft, rhythmic shushing noise, like silk rubbing against silk, or maybe dry leaves skittering across concrete, and it was keeping perfect pace with me, growing steadily closer. I dared to look back, my head whipping around as I ran. There he was, gliding across the grass. He wasn't running. His legs weren't moving in any recognizable gait. He was moving with a smooth, fluid speed, his body perfectly upright, his arms still pinned rigidly to his sides. That terrible smile was unchanged, his wide, unblinking eyes locked on me with a terrifying intensity. The shushing sound was the fabric of his suit, whispering its awful secret as he moved. The chase was a silent, desperate ballet of terror under the cold, indifferent moon. I was sobbing now, tears blurring my vision, my breath coming in ragged, painful gasps. The park exit was 100 yards away, then 50. I could see the streetlights of the city beyond, the promise of normalcy and safety. I poured every last ounce of my strength into a final, explosive spurt of speed, my legs screaming in protest. I burst through the wrought iron gate and stumbled onto the hard, familiar concrete of the sidewalk. The sudden glare of a streetlight felt like a benediction. A city bus rumbled past, its interior lights revealing a handful of tired-looking passengers. The mundane reality of it was almost overwhelming. I collapsed against the cold brick wall of a laundromat, gasping for air, my entire body trembling uncontrollably. I hugged my arms around myself, trying to still the violent shaking. When I finally gathered the courage to look back into the park, the path was empty, the lawns were still. There was no sign of him. No gaunt figure in a black suit, no smiling man. The park looked exactly as it always had, peaceful, serene, and utterly ordinary. I stayed pressed against that wall for a long time, until my breathing slowed and the tremors subsided to a faint quiver in my hands. The digital clock on the bank across the street read 2:24 a.m. The entire encounter had lasted less than 20 minutes. It felt like a lifetime. The walk home was a nerve-wracking journey. I jumped at every shadow, my head on a constant swivel, expecting to see him standing in every darkened doorway. It wasn't until I was fumbling for my keys at my apartment door, my hand still unsteady, that I felt it, a faint, gritty sensation on the back of my jacket collar. I shrugged the jacket off and held it under the hallway light. There, clinging to the dark leather on the shoulder, was a single, perfectly preserved oak leaf, dry and brown from the autumn, the kind of leaf that would make a soft, shushing sound if it was carried by someone or something moving with impossible speed through the night. I never walked through that park again, not even in the bright light of day. I moved apartments 6 months later, choosing a place on the opposite side of the city. The fear has faded from a constant scream to a low, persistent hum, but it never truly left me. I still have nightmares about that smile, those empty eyes, and sometimes on very still, very quiet nights, when the wind is just right, I'll hear a faint rustling sound outside my window. I'll lie perfectly still in the dark, my heart pounding a familiar, terrified rhythm, and I'll pray to a God I'm not sure I believe in that it's just the wind. Just the wind.